Good morning. Welcome to Unity Longmont Spiritual Center on this Labor Day weekend. We've got September 6, 2020 today, and we are blessed to have a new guest speaker. He is Dr. Reynold Feldman, and he's a New Thought visionary and author of 10 books, a retired university professor and administrator, and he has a passion for helping people realize their personal wisdom. He lives in Boulder with his wife, Dr. Cedar Barstow, and is a member of St. John's Episcopal Church in Boulder. And we are blessed to have the musicians and singers Clint Brown and Connie Schaefer. So we will begin with a piece of music.
Unmuting here. Unity, Sunday, that's the place to be. Joyful spirits, you and me, surrounded by the light. Not much talk of guilt or sin, surely you'll be welcomed in, greeted by a joyful grin, grounded in the now. Unity, Sunday, that's the place to be. Joyful spirits, you and me, surrounded by the light. Jesus Christ, Mohammed too, Buddha has a special view. Sufi spirits shining through, grounded in the now. Sunday, that's the place to be. Joyful spirits, you and me, surrounded by the light. Come on down to Unity, it's a great community. Singing helps your soul be free, lightens up the heart. Unity, Sunday, that's the place to be. Joyful spirits, you and me, surrounded by the light. Surrounded by the light. Surrounded by the light.
Thank you, Clint and Connie. And it's at this time that we go into prayer by taking a breath together. Beloved presence, with our open and grateful hearts, we see the work you do within us and around us. We see our world healing. We see people coming together in love and working toward change and benefiting all human beings. And so it is. We'll have another piece of music, please.
I open my heart, may it always be with you, nurture and sustain you, even when we're apart. I offer my love as we journey together through the light of our caring. May we become whole. May the vision we share bring hope and bring healing. Let the joy and the caring be for all time. May the light of truth of your wisdom. Every instant is healing. All pain is transformed. Your purity shines outside the illusion, beyond all confusion. As you open your heart, I open my heart. May it always be with you, nurture and sustain you, even when we're apart. I offer my love as we journey together through the light of our sharing. May we become whole. The vision shines through of a master inspiring, through the strength of your caring. Lead the way to the door. The wisdom will live, carried on through the ages, through the songs of the sages. As you open your heart, I open my heart. May it always be with you, nurture and sustain you, even when we're apart. I offer my love as we journey together through the light of our caring. May we become whole.
Thank you. That was lovely.
Thank you.
And now let us welcome Dr. Feldman, who likes to be called Ren.
Thank you. Yeah, Ren in Chinese, in Mandarin, Ren, second tone means both human being, and if you write the character slightly differently, it means human-heartedness or benevolence, which is the number one Confucian virtue. Anyway, I'm starting my stopwatch, which I hope will start to stop me in a half hour. So, and stop me effectively in a half hour. I'm going to try to share my screen now. Okie dokie, let's see. Can you all see that? Am I unmuted? Oh, you're all muted. Okay, so I assume you can see that. David,
We can see that, Ren. Thank you.
Okay, good. Well, this will help me stay on time. Looking for and finding wisdom with me. And my friend here. And when I originally put this PowerPoint together, it was high time for more wisdom. Now we're outside the atmosphere of the earth and out in space. It's really, really high time for more wisdom. 1978, 79, 80, I had the opportunity to work with Dr. Jonas Salk, who, interestingly, his first non-scientific book was called The Survival of the Wisest versus the Fittest. And he said in that book, basically, evolution, capital E, is now calling for more people to be born with a realized capacity for wisdom. And if a critical mass of such people didn't show up, that the planet was in trouble. And back in November 1978 in Farnham Castle in Surrey, England, where we spent a week together at a conference on the human future, as he was calling it, he wrote a very complimentary bit in his book. He said, for me, who has long been one who has been saying what I've tried to convey in this book with highest regard, Joan Salk. So one of my proudest, that and my Audrey Hepburn autograph are my two prizes. So what is wisdom? When I go to high schools and talk about wisdom, do some stand-up wisdom for the kids in English class, I say, well, do you folks know what wisdom means? And they say, wise? I said, you're right, that's the first half. But here's the second, dumb. Wise and dumb. What do you mean, wise and dumb? Well, you know, you bring home A's in a report card, wise or dumb? Oh, that's wise. What about if you dive into an empty swimming pool? That's so lame, that is dumb. So wisdom is a combination of being wise or being dumb. You have the choice. But actually, the word wisdom in English and in Scandinavian languages, which have the same word with a V, derives from visio in Latin, where we get vision, and daemon from Old English. And daemon is the verb from which we get the modern word to deem, D-E-E-M, meaning to judge. And the past tense of daemon in Old English is dome, D-long-O-M, from which we get the word doom. Now, when I was a kid and I heard the word doomsday, my picture was the world exploding, you know, big time explosions and all that. But the word doomsday is actually judgment day. And it comes from that old Anglo-Saxon word. So putting it together, and this is Dr. Salk's definition, also mine, it's the human capacity to make decisions that over time prove beneficial to self, others, and the largest possible context. And in the Judeo-Christian tradition, of course, the poster child for wisdom is King Solomon, although with 200 wives and 800 concubines, you really wonder sometimes. But the story, back in the book of Kings, chapter 3, is where, as you know, two women were fighting over the possession of a baby. So Solomon says to his guys, okay, bring me my big sword. I'll hack the baby in half and you can each have half. And so one of the women says, sure, I'll take my half. And the other woman says, no, no, it's her baby. Give her the whole baby. And Solomon says, right, actually put my sword back. The real mother is away because she'd rather have her daughter being raised or child being raised by this other woman than having her child killed. And here's Raphael's painting of the wisdom of Solomon. Well, we find wisdom in all kinds of traditions, and in the Islamic tradition, we have the Mullah Nasruddin, who's the wise fool of Islam. Now, we usually think of Islam as a pretty straight-laced, puritanical, unsmiling religion, and it definitely has that gene. But like any other human tradition, there are other things, and there's a looser, funnier, nicer side. So we have the Mullah Nasruddin, who was very wise, but also very foolish, truly incorporating wisdom. A couple of quick stories of the mullah. Someone came up to him and said, Mullah, which is better, the sun or the moon? The mullah strokes his beard and says, obviously the moon. What? Mullah, why the moon? Why the moon? He said, well, the sun shines during the daytime when it's light out anyway. Then another one is one night he's looking around under the lamplight out in front of his house, and his wife comes out, Mullah, what are you doing? So I'm looking for my key, I lost it. Well, where did you lose it? Oh, over by the door. Well, why are you looking for it over here? He said, well, the light's better over here. We had a song about light this morning. Well, the light was better over there. And a final one, although there's dozens of them, a final one is the mullah is a raftsman, and he's taking across a very important, famous scholar on his raft to the other side. Now it's spring, the river's in full flood, They're halfway across, and the scholar says to the mullah, "Mullah, tell me, can you read or write?" He said, "No, Your Excellency, I never learned." He said, "Well, you've wasted half your life." Then the mullah says, "Excuse me, Your Excellency, but can you swim?" And he said, "No, I've never learned." He said, "Well, then I'm afraid you've wasted all your life. You see, we're sinking." So this is some wisdom from the Mullah Nasruddin. My first book on wisdom was called World Treasury of Folk Wisdom. Actually, my most successful publication, helped put my second daughter through college. Collection of 1,000 proverbs in an inclusive language from 135 cultures, I believe, in 100 categories, 10 each. Each category had something from a different culture, which presented my co-author or co-editor and me with difficulty, because sometimes we had 10 really good ones from Korea, but we could only take one, how to find 9 others. Then in 2000, I wrote Wisdom, Daily Reflections for a New Era. It's published by St. Mary's Press in Winona, Minnesota. And then with a Muslim Bangladeshi colleague in Hawaii named Muhammad Jan Rumi and we wrote a book for kids called Wising Up, a Youth Guide to Good Living, which got translated into both Chinese and Japanese, and they love stuff like that. Then for my 70th birthday, about almost 11 years ago, I wrote my memoir, Stories I Remember, My Pilgrimage to Wisdom, a spiritual autobiography. That followed by, with my wife, Cedar Barstow, I wrote something called Living in the Power Zone, How Right Use of Power Can Transform Your Relationships. So I'm using power with wisdom and skill. Then in 2015, I wrote something called Terranautics 101, the basics for navigating an uncertain future. And this photograph is a little bit uncertain itself because what you have is 2 photographs juxtaposed and not really a waterfall. But in a world where you have juxtaposed realities, it is easy to fall over the cliff. And now, ta-ta-ta-ta, Wisdom for a Living, co-authored with a Unity member out in Northern California, Sharon Clark, Wisdom for Living, Learning to Follow Your Inner Guidance. And I think I'll just do one reading given the time. And I hope this reading will be elevating for somebody. It's actually the first, this book has 151-page, what we call whizzies. And the first one, get to it, here it is called The Wisdom of Beginning. The beginning is the most important part of the work, said Plato in his Republic. Welcome to an exploration of personal wisdom where you are the author, protagonist, and chief beneficiary. What you do or don't do today will affect who, where, and what you are not only tomorrow, but all the tomorrows thereafter. In the words of a contemporary American saying, today is the first day of the rest of your life. So be thoughtful about what you do with it. Life's small changes have great importance. From them grow individual, family, even global transformation. For anyone about to embark on some new project, there is a hesitation, perhaps a fear. But without a good idea and adequate preparation, the new structure will never get built. Without a suitable training program, the marathon cannot be run. Without keying in sentence 1, the book will never be written. Once we get started, the new undertaking seems only half as daunting as our fears. Soon, routine helps us continue, and before we know it, we are halfway to our goal. For the Chinese saying, the 1,000-mile journey begins with that first step. Proverbs in many languages underscore the importance and the difficulty of beginnings. A good start is half the work, Gaelic. A good beginning makes a good end, English. Every beginning is hard, German, Chinese, and Italian. Ogni principio è difficile. It's in about 10 languages. So why not embrace the Nike slogan and just do it? Shall we begin? And for your first entry in your wisdom journal, and we ask people who read this book, if they wish, to keep a notebook or a journal, and hereafter called the WJ, write about some small choice you made that has had a major impact on your life. Happy journaling. And you might want, as I'm going on here, think about such a change, some small change in your life that's made, as Frost says in that poem, walking through woods or riding through woods on a summer evening, I forget the exact title, deciding which of the branches of a fork to take, the final line is, and that has made all the difference. Sometimes wisdom comes from the great beyond. I have a number of stories on this topic, but I'll just give you one. Some years ago, I was dean at a university, state university in Chicago, and so I had to give out diplomas at commencement time. And I would say 99% of the time, I didn't know the people who were coming forward. So I would try to say something different to each one. If it was an older student, I'd say, I bet your kids are proud. The younger students, congratulations, way to go, terrific, things like that. And here's your diploma. Shake with the right, give the diploma with the left. It was a little bit tough, but it was possible. One day or 1 year, this guy comes walking across the stage, a great big wide guy. And I knew him because he was a university locksmith and he had worked on our locks at one point. And I also knew that he was a Jewish guy. Now I'm a Jewish Christian, Sufi, how I call myself, and say, you're also mixed up. No, this is my series of traditions, and I embrace them all. And, but he's a Jewish guy, and I'm a Jewish ethnic, so he comes across the stage, and when he comes up, I hand him my diploma, and I say, way to go, boychik. Now, boychik is an American Yiddish expression based on our word boy and the Polish diminutive chick, boychik. And it means like kiddo or buddy, something like that. And it's a way that we signify with each other sometimes. Okay, fast forward to the next morning, 8 o'clock, Monday, I'm going to my office, and there's Marty, this big guy, big Jewish guy, blocking my way. I go one way, he goes that way. I go the other, he goes that way. And he kind of trundles up to me and he said, Reynold, do you believe in an afterlife? I said, Marty, it's 8 in the morning. What kind of question is that? He said, no, it's very important to me. I'm serious. Do you believe in an afterlife? I said, yes, I think so. Do you remember what you said to me yesterday when you gave me my diploma? And I was like, actually, I don't. He said, you said, way to go, boychik. And as we were lining up, I say to Marilyn, my wife, I say, you know, Marilyn, it's too bad Pop can't be here. He never thought I could make anything of my life. And yesterday he could have seen me, or today, he said to her, he could see me getting my Bachelor's of Arts degree. And my father always called me boychik. Well, this would normally be, if we had more time, your time to do a wisdom exercise. And I will tell you what it is. And at the end, I'll do a commercial message for the book. If you want to get the book, you can actually read it. But I see that most of us are of a certain age and will remember a song. It actually came out in mid-Depression, but it was really popular during the Second World War when I was a little kid, and also beyond into the 50s. And it's, I'm gonna sit right down and write myself a letter. song by Fred Eller and Joe Young. So I say here in this essay, I'm not going to read it, but I just say, wisdom is our inner guidance system. And I have a whole technique where you actually write yourself a letter. I explain it here, but you write yourself a letter and about some issue or problem you're facing. You can actually try this at home. This is something you can try at home. Some issue you've been trying to solve and you've come up with kind of a hung jury, 6 votes for, 6 votes against. How do you figure out what to do? So in this letter, you write your first name, like Bobby would write, Dear Bobby, in the normal way, capital B, and then the rest small letters, Dear Bobby. And you give yourself instructions on what to do. Now, every Unity person would know that before you do something important like this, you take a few deep cleansing breaths and you do sort of a quiet meditation for at least 5 minutes. That's a good idea. Why? So we can get into that inner space where we get our answer from our big self. So you write the answer to that question. You give yourself advice, but who's giving the advice? And this is the point. And at the end, you write, love, Bobby. But this time, the Bobby is written in all capital letters. B-O-B-B-I-E, all caps, every single one. Because this is your big self, what I like to call your B&B self, your biggest and best self, advising your everyday self or your personality self on what you should do. And I've done this in workshops, and I remember one time this businesswoman came up to me, this was in Honolulu, and she said, I've been wrestling with this question for 5 years. I can never figure out what to do. And I believe today, in this exercise, I've finally gotten the answer. So it's amazing, we contain all kinds of stuff. And if we could just get to the place where we can hear the still small voice of our biggest and best self, amazing things can happen. So commencement wisdom, I end the book actually with each of these little essays has a lead quotation. And the final one is this one from Mary Tudor, Queen of Scots, who of course died at the hands of her half-sister because Mary was trying to reconvert England from Anglicanism, which was in very early times, to the Roman Catholic Church, which she had remained. Anyway, Mary did say, in my end is my beginning. And of course, that's a good word for somebody who's about to face an afterlife. As a relatively young woman, she was 46. So I will read this one. And let me see here. We're at 20 minutes, so I still have time to read this. In my end is my beginning. Commencement is a word that looks 2 ways. During my student days, it denoted the end of a course of study, a recognition that I had completed all requirements for a degree and was ready to move on. The word also has to do with new beginnings. The familiar expression says it all. I requote, today is the first day of the rest of your life. Commencement wisdom is knowing that divinity makes everything new and that we, as co-creators, have the opportunity each moment to begin anew. Yesterday, we may have graduated, a word that means having taken a step. But today, we are called on to graduate again. It helps to acknowledge the successful completion of each day. It's also sensible to break life up into a series of present opportunities. This strategy is contained in the 12-step slogan, one day at a time. Letting bygones be bygones, starting afresh, celebrating the accomplishment of having reached this new day, week, month, or year, is a formula for wise living. So as you conclude this book, know that the future will give you daily chances to live a wiser life. If you have discovered inner wisdom to help you along the way, these essays will have served their purpose. And the final Wisdom Journal exercise is sit quietly, then leaf through your WJ. Let thoughts and images come and go. After a few minutes, do one more WJ exercise. Write 3 things you intend to do in the future to live more wisely. Best wishes as you are guided by your inner wisdom. 22 minutes, 47 seconds, and counting. And I believe I don't have to go to the full 30 minutes, and we can either have some questions now, or we can wait until the end to close, and then we can just have a free-flowing discussion. So with that, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to let you know that Dava has lost her ability to use Zoom on her computer. So she's gone from us, and I'm going to try and help facilitate today. So go ahead. Whoops, now I'm gone. Can you?
Oh, I see you. I see you.
Isn't
Yeah,
that?
and I see you on speaker view as well.
Okay.
I can see
You
you.
have a pink telephone that matches your dress. So
Yes, I do. Well, apparently I don't know what's going on here, but apparently my Zoom and Dava's Zoom are not working. So I can hear you on my phone. So go ahead and take questions if you can see them. Everybody unmute yourself if you have a question for Ren. And Ren, thank you very much for your beautiful and wise discussion of wisdom.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And Roberta, we can both see you and hear you just
Oh,
fine.
there you are. I got you back. I got you back.
So carry on.
Okay. Dava, try hitting on your ribbon. Try hitting the Zoom button on your ribbon.
Can you hear me?
yeah.
Yes? Good. Thank you, Ren.
Can you
That
hear
was-
us?
Yes. I can't hear Bobby anymore, but I can hear you.
Okay. Well,
Zoom glitches.
Yes, glitches all around.
Yeah.
Well,
Ava, I see your beautiful paintings in your lamp in the background. And then you have a second, you're probably your phone maybe, where we have a black screen with your name on it. And both of those places are muted. Now we see you again.
yes.
I
Yeah.
can't hear you.
And it says you're muted, but we still hear you. Isn't that funny?
Yes. So anyway, why don't we go ahead and ask our questions of Ren and
Ren, I've got one question now. Towards the end, you said three things to do to make yourself more wise. Was that it? Was that the
Yeah, that was the final Wisdom Journal exercise.
Okay.
After sitting quietly. Think of 3 things you can do in the future
in the
to
future?
up
Okay.
your WQ. So,
Yes. All right. Very good. Very good. Well, I liked in the beginning.
David, you're looking. Excuse me. Go ahead, Susan. Sorry.
In the beginning, I liked when you said a good start is half the work.
Right. Well, it's a proverb. I didn't say. I just aped it. It's out there in the noosphere. David,
Yeah.
you're looking thoughtful. Do you have some questions,
I don't
suggestions?
think she's getting any I don't think she's getting any reception at all. She said she has a black screen.
Okay.
I was thinking of David Ulrich, actually.
Oh, David. Okay.
He looks like one of the prophets of old, so I'm thinking he's got something really good to say.
Oh,
No, I'm just contemplating, but I don't have anything in particular that I want to ask.
Okay. Well, when you do later on, feel free.
Oh, thank you.
Sure. Anybody else?
well, I thought it was a really good exercise to think of something that happened to you that changed your life? And I immediately thought of in 1985, there was a TV program that was going to come on, and it was Shirley MacLaine. It was a mini series called Out on a Limb. And when I heard it advertised, I said, I really, really want to watch this, because I had heard, you know, that Shirley MacLaine was writing a book, or wrote a book, whatever. And I thought, well, how wonderful. So I watched it, and I was totally enthralled from beginning to end. And that was the, well, not the total beginning of my metaphysical studies, but that was the one that really, really got me excited to learn more and delve into metaphysical studies. So it was like an actual real turning point in my life. It really was.
Anybody else think about a particular turning point, some decisions they made to do something or not to do something, or anything like that, that made a real difference in who they are and where they are and what they're doing today? Sort of a road not taken. That was the name of the poem. The Road Not Taken. I mistaken it for Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. It's another good one, but it's the road not taken.
So I'm thinking of a time when I was about 24, 25, and my husband was in the military. He was just getting out, and we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do next. We knew he had the GI Bill, and he wanted to go to graduate school. So, and this was weird because it wasn't a considered logical decision. We just got a big map of the United States, and we had a handful of darts. And we threw darts at it. And then wherever the darts landed, he applied to the graduate school.
Oh my gosh.
The one that accepted him was the University of Denver, and that's how we ended up here.
Oh,
Great.
So I don't know if that qualifies as wisdom, but I thought it was like listening to an inner urge or an inner,
yeah.
Yeah, it's basically saying to the universe, you know what? Tell me where I should go.
I'm
exactly.
open.
And it's making, you know, I'm a New Yorker. You know, I come from the mother house of Jewish boys in New York City. And I even talked like that when I was a kid, but my parents sent me to a fancy boarding school so I could learn to talk good. Like a, but my favorite building to this day in New York City is the Chrysler Building.
Yeah.
Chrysler Building is so beautiful. It looks like, you know, one of Elon Musk's rockets, you know, like the SpaceX rocket. Comes to this beautiful point. But then I thought, you know, somebody's sick in that building and they need to be helicoptered to the local hospital. They're out of luck. Because as beautiful as that building is, you can't land a helicopter on top of it. No way. On the other hand, the RCA building, which I considered much uglier, had room for the helicopter to land. And then my mind, as a kid in New York, middle-class Jewish kids were sent to see Broadway shows from about age 13. It was sort of the stage 2 of your bar mitzvah. Okay, you did the religious thing, now go see South Pacific, you know, go see The King and I. So I was blessed by being able to see quite a few shows, even Fiddler on the Roof in the original kind of production. It was wonderful, my people. And I remember in South Pacific, the Seabees were out on this island in the Pacific making a landing strip because, you know, our planes couldn't go that far back in the day, not even the B-29s. So you had to have landing strips closer and closer to Japan. And they were sort of working their way up these islands. They would reconquer them. The Marines would come in, the Army would come in, Air Force would come in, clean them out. And then the Seabees would come in and make a landing strip if there wasn't one already there. So I think for me, this is a metaphor for spiritual practice. You have to find a technique or techniques that work for you that build your landing strip. because we live in a society of beautiful Chrysler buildings. In other words, we can send signals for these unitary individualists who think and try to solve everything by our head. But as the good book doesn't say, people cannot live by head alone. There's more than our head. And fortunately, there are churches and organizations in the world like Unity and others that understand that. It's not just one thing and it's or one religion or one something, but you have to find ways of getting out of your cotton picking head and make a landing strip for the spirit to come in. So Roberta, I think what you and your husband did, throwing darts, was a spiritual practice.
Yeah.
Because you're not in your head. You're not saying, well, let me see, Denver, they have a very good X school, and I heard that John Smith teaches there, and he's the world expert on blah, 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 and that's where I want to go. That's one way to decide. It's not bad. I'm not putting it down. And you could have a wonderful education there. But for example, my wife died, my first wife, 14 years ago of pancreatic cancer. We were in Hawaii. But before she died, she was German. She said to me, Reinhold, after I die, you are younger than me. I was 9 years younger. You are younger than me, and I've noticed you like the ladies. So I do not think that you will be alone for long. But when I get upstairs, if it's permitted, I will help you to find somebody good. Because maybe you don't choose so good yourself. And I say, wait, I chose you, didn't I? So she says, this is about 3 weeks before she died. She said, well, you can be lucky once. So sure enough, I spent 3 years in grief travel. I was teaching in Denmark. I was living in Ireland. I was staying with my relatives in Germany. I was all over the map, Canada even, trying to just get back to myself. So about 3 years, not quite 3 years into it, I was starting at that point to be emotionally available to look for somebody. And all my friends were looking, no one could find anybody. And so I arrived here to visit this woman who was getting her master's at Europa at the time. And she said, well, my apartment is too small. It's just a studio and our relationship isn't at that point. So she puts me up with her girlfriend. And as it happens, when I get there, I have a dream where my late wife comes to me and she says, not that woman, the one I was interested in, this one. And that became my wife, this one.
Oh,
And I'm in her house right now.
oh.
And we're celebrating our 10th anniversary this month.
Excellent, excellent. Well, back in the 60s, go ahead.
Won the lottery twice.
We have time for about one more question.
Okay, thank you. Go.
Oh,
Su-
go ahead, Bobby, go ahead.
no, you had a question, Susan? You wanted
No,
to
I don't have a question. I just had a comment.
go ahead.
Okay, well, I was going to say, Ren, back in the 60s, I married a nice Jewish boy from Long Island.
Where my daughter lives, one of them.
Yeah. And I was thinking, for a woman, I don't even know so much for men, but for a woman, one of the biggest changing points in their life is marriage and childbirth. So like when I had my child, my life was one thing before a child and something different once I became a mother. That was a new identity for me. It was just, and to this day, there's life before my daughter and life after my daughter. Not that, she runs my life or anything, but it's just a turn, an absolute turning point that can't be mistaken. It's different after you have children. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
It's kind of also the wisdom of the body that people talk about, right?
Yeah.
This has been just delightful, Ren. Thank you so much for sharing so much of your wisdom and your life and your stories. It's been delightful. And
Wisdom in life. It's rare.
rare. And now it's time. David, can you hear and talk? Or do you want me to do this? I guess she can.
I can,
Oh,
you
wonderful.
can hear and talk, but I'm going to let you do it.
Okay. Well, it's time now where we go into gratitude. And if we were live, we would be passing the basket, but right now we're just here. And so let's go to our hearts and with great gratitude, be thankful for that which we have here, for our group, and all that we give and all that we receive. And as we do that, I'm going to ask Clint and Connie for another beautiful song.
Honor the Middle Eastern tradition, which has been reborn and as the Sufi dancing, the universal dance of universal peace. Just a little bit of one of those. Ishkala mabud lela, Ishkala mabud lela, Ishkala mabud lela, Ishkala mabud lela, Allah ya Shamil, Allah ya Shamil, Allah ya Shamil, Allah. So this is translated in some traditions as God is love, lover, and beloved. Ishkala mabud lela, Ishkala mabud lela, Ishkala mabud lela, Ishkala mabud lela, Allah ya Shamil, Allah ya Shamil, Allah ya Shamil, Allah, Allah. Thank you, and thank you, Rin. Thanks, Connie.
Thank you. So I don't know if we have anything else to do, Deva, but
We have announcements. Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay. A quick announcement. There's a meet and greet every Thursday at 11 o'clock at Roosevelt Park in front of the Senior Center. And it's wear a mask and socially distance and enjoy each other's company. And next Sunday, by which time my brand new laptop will be fixed, we will have Spirit Council directly after our service. All are invited, and that's the meeting where we look at where we are and what is ours to do. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Ren. Thank you, Clint and Connie.
Thank you.
Sorry for the technical issues.
I can have a second, just a word from our sponsor here.
Sure.
This book and all my books you can find at Amazon or barnesandnobles.com. And this one is just short and sweet, easy to read here and there throughout. Wisdom for Living, look for Feldman, Wisdom for Living, on Amazon or Barnes & Nobles. Amazon is currently cheaper, and it's also available in both places as an ebook, paperback or ebook. So my mother thanks you, my father thanks you from beyond the grave, and I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I see that we are still recording, Deva. I don't know how to stop it.
I don't think you can, Bobby. What I'm going to have to do is a hard shutdown on my laptop.
Okay.
And I assume that will stop the recording. And then I will come back in from the phone and make sure it has stopped.
Okay.
So everyone will need to end the meeting for themselves.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Fran.
everybody.